Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started. The Bloodline's Jacob Fatu has issued one final warning to the Usos and Roman Reigns ahead of WWE Crown Jewel. The Samoan Werewolf will team up with Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga to clash against Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and the OTC in Saudi Arabia tonight. The Usos and Reigns officially reunited on SmackDown television after over a year as the OG Bloodline. The group's founding members will collide against Sikoa's version of the Bloodline in a six-man tag team match. With 6 stars competing in this upcoming contest, Tonga Loa has been excluded from the Street Champions side, as announced by Michael Cole on this week's episode of SmackDown. Appointed as the enforcer of the new Bloodline due to his loyalty to Sikoa, Jacob Fatu has pledged his allegiance to his tribal chief. In a chilling message on X, FKA Twitter, the Samoan Werewolf issued a final warning to Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso ahead of the 6-man tag team match at Crown Jewel. WWE legend suggests blockbuster feud for Jacob Fatu. As of now, Jacob Fatu has yet to engage in a one-on-one rivalry in WWE. However, wrestling legend Rikishi recently suggested a potential feud for the enforcer of the new Bloodline. On his Off the Top podcast, WWE Hall of Famer mentioned that he would like to see a blockbuster feud between Jimmy Uso and Jacob Fatu, which would allow both stars to grow as solo performers. The guy that I would like to see him have his first run would be Jacob Fatu. I feel that this could be a good test for Jacob, and at the same time, the two boys that were raised together underneath the same roof can also make their memories together. Jimmy got his memory together already and made history with his brother. How cool would that be to go down with your cousin on a big PPV? I would like to see like a Hell in a Cell type of vibe against those two. I feel that Jimmy can have a good run. A safe bet would be Jacob Fatu, Rikishi said. It will be exciting to see how the Bloodline storyline unfolds after tonight's Crown Jewel Premium live event. As the sun dipped below the horizon in Riyadh, the anticipation for WWE Crown Jewel reached a fever pitch. Fans filled the arena, buzzing with excitement for the action to come. Among the high-profile matches, the spotlight shone brightest on the impending showdown between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, who were on opposing sides of the wrestling universe despite their blood ties. Fatu's fierce persona and undeniable talent had positioned him as a formidable force, ready to take on the legacy of the Bloodline. The atmosphere was electric, and backstage, Fatu was preparing for his moment in the spotlight. Clad in his signature gear, a blend of tribal patterns and modern design, he stood in front of a mirror, his expression a mix of determination and intensity. As he practiced his signature moves, a glint of purpose flickered in his eyes. Fatu was not just here to compete, he was here to make a statement. His mind raced with thoughts of his opponents, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, and the Usos, his cousins and tag team champions. The lineage of their family was rich with wrestling history, but Jacob's journey had carved a different path. He had risen through the ranks, driven by a desire to honor his heritage while carving out his own identity. Tonight was not just about wrestling, it was personal. As the show began, the crowd erupted with excitement. Fatu made his entrance, the arena resonating with cheers as he stepped into the spotlight. The tribal drums echoed through the venue, syncing perfectly with his powerful strides toward the ring. Fatu soaked in the atmosphere, feeling the energy of the crowd fueling his resolve. Once in the ring, Jacob took a moment to address the audience, his voice commanding yet focused. Tonight, I stand here not just as a competitor, but as a representative of our family's legacy. Roman, you wear that title with pride, but it's time for you to understand that the Bloodline isn't just yours. It's ours. And I'm here to reclaim what's rightfully ours. The audience erupted with cheers, but Jacob wasn't finished. He was ready to send a direct message to Roman and the Usos. You've held us back for too long, Roman. You've kept the family name wrapped around your own desires, and it's time for you to realize that this isn't just a business, this is personal. When I step into that ring, I won't just be fighting for a title, I'll be fighting for respect, for our family's honor. I'm ready to show you and the Usos that there's more to this bloodline than just you three." As he finished his speech, Jacob's intensity was palpable. He was aware that his words would reach the ears of Roman and the Usos, and he wanted to ensure they understood the weight of his message. He flexed his muscles, showcasing his powerful physique, and the crowd responded with roaring support. Backstage, Roman watched with narrowed eyes, the intensity of Jacob's speech sparking a fire within him. Roman had grown accustomed to being the centerpiece of the bloodline, and he would not allow anyone to disrupt the hierarchy he had built. He understood that Jacob was a threat, but he dismissed his words as mere bravado. Yet, as the evening progressed, the tension lingered. The night wore on, filled with incredible matches and jaw-dropping moments, but the anticipation for Fatu's encounter with Roman was at an all-time high. As the main event approached, Jacob's thoughts turned to strategy. He had to be smart. Roman was known for his psychological warfare, and he needed to outsmart the tribal chief in every way possible. Finally, the moment arrived. The arena dimmed, and the sound of Roman Reigns' entrance theme echoed through the venue, sending shivers down the spines of fans. Roman emerged, flanked by the Usos, the trio exuding an air of confidence and dominance. The crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and boos, but the unmistakable sound of tribal drums soon filled the arena, signaling Jacob Fatu's arrival. The tension was thick as the two men stood in the ring, face to face. The moment felt electric, charged with anticipation and emotion. Jacob's gaze locked onto Roman, a fierce determination evident in his eyes. He could see the doubt hidden behind Roman's confident exterior, and it fueled his fire. "Roman," Jacob began, his voice steady and clear, "you've built your empire on the backs of our family. You've thrown your cousins to the side, manipulating them into submission while you bask in the glory. But tonight, I'm here to tell you that your reign of terror ends now. This isn't just a match, this is a battle for the future of our family." The Usos exchanged glances, a flicker of concern visible on their faces. They had always followed Roman, but Jacob's words were starting to resonate. Fatu continued, "When I defeat you, it won't just be a win in the record books, it will be a declaration that the bloodline is bigger than you. It's time for us to reclaim our family's legacy, and I won't stop until I've proven that I'm the true heir of this lineage." Roman's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. He wasn't about to let anyone, not even his own cousin, challenge his authority. "You think you can just waltz in here and take what's mine? You have no idea what it means to carry this family on your back. You're nothing but a shadow of what I've built. I will destroy you at Crown Jewel." Jacob's confidence remained unshaken. "You may have held that title for a long time, but tonight, I'll show you what true strength looks like. You've underestimated me, and that will be your downfall. The bloodline is about to evolve, and I'm the one who will lead it into a new era." With that final declaration, Jacob turned to the crowd, raising his arms in triumph. The fans responded with deafening cheers, rallying behind him as he left the ring. As he exited, he glanced back at Roman and the Usos, who stood there, simmering with rage and uncertainty. The message was clear: Jacob Fatu was ready to fight for his place in the bloodline, and he would stop at nothing to claim his legacy. As the evening unfolded, the tension built toward Crown Jewel, and Jacob Fatu's daunting message lingered in the air. He was determined to redefine what it meant to be a member of the bloodline, and Roman Reigns and the Usos would have to face the consequences of their actions. The stage was set for a clash of titans, and Jacob was prepared to leave it all in the ring. The fans eagerly awaited the epic showdown, knowing that the outcome would change the course of the bloodline forever. Jey Uso says he 100% trusts fellow bloodline member following recent betrayal. Jey Uso has found his own way in WWE the past year. It all started when he defied Roman Reigns and left the bloodline behind. Cut to November 2024, main event. Jey appears to have let bygones be bygones, as blood is thicker than water. Uso claims he trusts his twin brother Jimmy wholeheartedly. However, the OTC's former right-hand man admitted to one thing: he is unsure about Roman Reigns. Speaking to Michael Cole on the Crown Jewel kickoff, Jey Uso opened up about his renewed brotherhood with Big Jim and his strained relationship with the OTC. I really don't know if me and Roman are going to be on the same page, Jey Uso began. I'm not going to know until we get out there. We have some big problems, unfinished business within my family. I answered the call because it is my family. I will show up. I will be there. I just don't know if I can fully trust the tribal chief 100% yet. Michael Cole then reminded Jey that it was Jimmy who cost him last year's SummerSlam main event against Roman Reigns. However, Jey confirmed that he trusts his brother, Big Jim, moving forward. Since today, I do trust my twin brother 100%. 1503 to 1610, Roman Reigns needs to acknowledge Jey Uso, believes former WWE analyst during a recent Busted Open episode. Matt Camp joined WWE Hall of Famer Mark Henry to discuss the reunion of the OG bloodline. Camp noted how this time, things are looking different for the former right-hand man. He asserted that main event Jey is better than playing second fiddle to the OTC, and went to the extent of stating that the latter should acknowledge his cousin in order to truly get on the same page. The two have not buried the hatchet just yet, despite WWE putting them together at Crown Jewel. If you're going to get Jey back in the fold, Roman has to look at him, Roman has to acknowledge him. He has to look at Jey as an equal. Whether he is or not in the eyes of fans, we will see. Obviously, Reigns has more accomplishments. But I don't want Jey coming back as a second fiddle. He's beyond that now, Camp said. Throughout the original run of the bloodline, Roman Reigns repeatedly put Jey Uso down and turned Jey into his lackey. Naturally, there are wounds yet to be healed between them. Jey Uso stood backstage, his eyes still blazing from the whirlwind of betrayal and survival that had been his life lately. The bloodline had gone through massive shifts, and trust was a rare commodity in his world. Just weeks ago, he had been betrayed by those closest to him, family who once stood by his side, forming the unbreakable backbone of the WWE's most dominant faction. Yet, despite everything, Jey remained resilient, determined to find stability amid the chaos. The recent betrayals had him questioning everything, but surprisingly, one person had emerged as a loyal ally in his world of shadows, Solo Sikoa. Jey's younger brother had proven himself steadfast, even when Roman Reigns and others had cast doubt and whispered rumors. And now, standing backstage, Jey declared to the WWE Universe in an exclusive interview, "I'm 100% sure about Solo. My trust in him is rock solid. You might think that's crazy, but I know my blood, and Solo's different." The interviewer looked surprised, eyebrows raised. "You've been through a lot recently. The betrayals, the mind games with Roman. How can you be so sure about Solo?" Jey smiled, a quiet, almost guarded expression. "Man, it's because he stood by me when everyone else flipped. He's been in the fire with me. He's my blood, and sometimes, even with all this wrestling drama, blood has to count for something." Solo had been silent for much of the turmoil, observing the family drama without declaring allegiance to anyone but himself. Jey knew, however, that Solo's silence wasn't a sign of indifference, it was a mark of strength. Solo had his back when the stakes were highest, and that loyalty spoke louder than any words could. Flashbacks surged through Jey's mind. He remembered a pivotal moment from a recent SmackDown match when Roman and his latest enforcer, Jimmy, had cornered him. They had betrayed him without hesitation, throwing their bond aside for personal gain. In the heat of that fight, just when he thought all was lost, Solo intervened, warding off their attack and giving Jey the opening he needed to rally. That single act of loyalty had been a beacon of hope, a lifeline. Backstage, the WWE locker room was buzzing with activity, but Jey and Solo sat quietly on a bench, away from the crowd. Solo, as usual, was a man of few words, but his presence alone brought Jey a sense of peace. "You didn't have to do that," Jey finally said, breaking the silence. "Interfering like that, it could have backfired on you, man." Solo nodded, looking at his older brother with a seriousness that matched his usual intensity. "I know, but I'm not about to watch my own brother get taken out like that. Not when I can do something about it." A silence passed between them, heavy yet reassuring. Jey felt a warmth in his chest, a sense of gratitude that was hard to put into words. "There's something Roman taught me," Jey said slowly. "It's that people will always look out for themselves. Loyalty's rare in this game. But I know, Solo, that you're in this for the right reasons." Solo's face was unreadable, but Jey could see a flicker of emotion in his eyes. "I didn't come here to play games, USO," Solo said in his low, measured tone. "I came here to make an impact. And right now, my loyalty's with you." Their bond felt stronger than ever, a rare gem in the fractured state of the bloodline. WWE fans and commentators had already begun speculating about a potential split between Jey and Solo, but Jey knew that wasn't happening. He didn't need anyone else's approval or validation to know where he stood with his brother. The following week on SmackDown, Roman Reigns orchestrated an official family meeting in the ring. The ring was darkened, the atmosphere heavy as Roman stood at the center, flanked by Jimmy and a host of security guards, just in case. Jey and Solo were called to join, and they made their entrance together, heads held high, their silent unity speaking volumes. Roman, with his familiar smug grin, wasted no time with his taunts. "Look at you two. Walking in here like a couple of heroes, thinking you're untouchable," he sneered. "Jey, you think trusting Solo's going to save you? This is my empire, my bloodline. Loyalty doesn't protect you from reality." Jey held his ground, unshaken. "Roman, you've made it clear who you are. I've made my choice too. And I know where Solo stands." He glanced at Solo, who stood there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable yet powerful in its quiet strength. Roman chuckled darkly. "So you really believe that Solo," he motioned to his younger cousin, "has your back over everything I've built for this family?" Jey stepped forward. "Believe it? I know it. Solo's proven himself, and I'd put my life in his hands before I'd ever trust you again." The tension crackled as Roman's face darkened. He wasn't used to being challenged, least of all by someone who had once been his closest confidant. Jimmy moved forward, squaring off against Jey, but before he could say anything, Solo stepped between them, standing as a silent barrier. Jimmy's eyes flickered with resentment. "You really think siding with Jey's gonna end well for you, Solo?" he sneered. "You know what happens to those who go against Roman." Solo's stoic expression didn't waver. "I've chosen my side, and it's the one that feels right." The crowd roared, sensing the shift in power. Roman and Jimmy might have tried to dominate with fear and manipulation, but Jey and Solo's bond was something they couldn't understand or break. It was forged not from ambition but from loyalty, something stronger than any title or hierarchy Roman could enforce. Roman's voice was low, seething with anger. "If that's how it's going to be, then you're both out. Out of my ring, out of my bloodline. Don't expect any mercy the next time you step up against me." Jey smirked, leaning in. "Then we'll take our chances, Roman. We don't need your protection, and we sure don't need your family blessing to do what we do best." As they turned to leave, the crowd erupted in cheers, sensing a new chapter beginning. This wasn't just the end of an alliance, it was the start of a rebellion. Jey and Solo walked up the ramp together, side by side, no longer weighed down by the past. Backstage, as they left the arena together, Jey finally let out a deep breath. "We're in for a fight, man. Roman's not gonna let this slide." Solo looked at him, a faint smile breaking through his usual stoic expression. "We'll handle whatever he throws at us, USO. Together." Jey nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride and confidence. For once, he knew he wasn't standing alone, and that made all the difference. Trust wasn't easy to find, but with Solo by his side, Jey knew he had a teammate he could count on, no matter what battles lay ahead. Jimmy Uso sends a 7-word message after attacking the Bloodline on WWE SmackDown. Jimmy Uso returned to WWE as the biggest threat to the Bloodline for their past actions. Big Jim sent a 7-word message following the events of Friday Night SmackDown. Earlier this year, following WrestleMania XL, Jey Uso was the Bloodline's first victim as Solo Sikoa introduced Tama Tonga, which led to an all-out attack on Big Jim. The former 8-time tag team champion often took a bullet or two for the faction, and Sikoa removed him from the group when he took over the reins as the new tribal chief. Jey Uso reunited with Main Event Jey on the latest edition of the Blue Brand and cost the Bloodline their tag titles against the Motor City Machine Guns. Meanwhile, Big Jim was in a cheery mood as he received a heartfelt message from his wife, Naomi. Later, he pinned a 7-word message to the Glow on Instagram. Jey Uso reunited with Jey Uso against the Bloodline on WWE SmackDown last year. Jey Uso made the hardest choice of his career as he cost Jey Uso the world title against Roman Reigns at WWE SummerSlam. The two went their separate ways, and Main Event Jey was born. Meanwhile, Jimmy spent time protecting the tribal chief and took multiple finishers in the process. Later, the Usos settled their differences at the Show of Shows in Philadelphia, and Main Event Jey walked out with a win. The company and the brand's landscape changed drastically in the coming months as Jimmy returned to WWE and aided Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes against Solo Sikoa's faction at Bad Blood. On the latest edition of Friday Night SmackDown, Big Jim reunited with Main Event Jey after the trio cost Solo Sikoa's faction their titles. The Usos hugged in the middle of the ring as Roman Reigns watched from afar. It will be interesting to see how the original tribal chief now mends his relationship with the former Intercontinental Champion in an effort to strengthen numbers in the battle against Sikoa's Bloodline. The roar of the crowd at WWE SmackDown was electric, filling the arena with the pulse of raw anticipation and energy. Every fan in attendance knew they were in for something special, but nothing could have prepared them for the seismic shift that was about to rock the Bloodline to its very core. For months, tensions within the Bloodline had simmered beneath the surface, with Jey Uso walking a delicate line. Despite his history of loyalty to the family, it was clear that Jimmy had grown increasingly uncomfortable with Roman Reigns' iron-fisted rule over the Bloodline. The once tight-knit faction had turned into a battlefield of manipulation and control, and tonight, SmackDown would bear witness to a crack that might prove irreparable. As the opening notes of the Bloodline's theme music echoed through the arena, Roman Reigns walked down the ramp with his typical arrogance, accompanied by Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. Roman's championship belt gleamed under the lights, a symbol of his dominance and of the Bloodline's once unquestioned supremacy. But tonight, a shadow loomed over the tribal chief, an uneasy tension that seemed to stem from within his ranks. The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and boos as Roman took the microphone, addressing his family and the WWE Universe. "This is my house. The Bloodline is mine, and anyone who steps out of line will be dealt with accordingly," he declared, his voice tinged with a cold menace. But before Roman could continue, the sound of Jey Uso's entrance music hit, interrupting him. The crowd gasped, then erupted into an even louder cheer. There was something different about Jimmy tonight, a look in his eyes that went beyond mere defiance. This was rebellion incarnate. He strode to the ring with a purpose, his face set, his jaw clenched. He was ready to make a statement. As Jimmy entered the ring, Roman's expression turned from one of arrogance to annoyance. He raised his hand, gesturing for Solo and Heyman to stay back, to let him handle his cousin. "Jimmy," Roman sneered, "I thought we settled this. You're either with me or against me. And there's no room for rebellion in the Bloodline." Jimmy didn't flinch. Instead, he took a step closer, locking eyes with Roman, the intensity between them almost palpable. For a moment, there was silence, the kind that precedes a storm. Then Jimmy spoke, his voice low but filled with unmistakable fire. "You talk about family, Roman, but you've forgotten what family really means," Jimmy said, each word a direct challenge. "I'm done following orders. I'm done being treated like a pawn." Roman's smirk faded, replaced by a look of cold fury. He took a step forward, his hand twitching as though he was ready to strike. But before he could move, Jimmy threw the first punch, sending shockwaves through the arena. The crowd exploded into a frenzy, watching in awe as Jimmy took the fight straight to the tribal chief. It was a moment months in the making, the turning point the bloodline had been heading toward, and now it was finally here. The brawl that followed was fierce and unrelenting. Jimmy fought with everything he had, refusing to back down. The audience was on their feet, torn between their loyalty to the bloodline and their newfound respect for Jimmy's courage. Solo Sikoa quickly intervened, rushing to his brother's aid, but Jimmy met him head-on, fighting back with a fire that seemed to catch Solo off guard. For a moment, it looked as though Solo would overpower Jimmy, but then something unexpected happened. Jimmy, summoning all his strength, managed to dodge one of Solo's blows, sending him crashing into the ropes. With a swift superkick, Jimmy sent Solo sprawling to the mat, a rare and symbolic victory that signaled he wasn't afraid to take on his own family if it meant standing up for his beliefs. In the chaos, Roman regained his footing, his face a mask of fury as he locked eyes with Jimmy once more. But Jimmy was already backing away, moving toward the edge of the ring. He raised the microphone he'd grabbed from the mat, his breathing heavy, his eyes blazing with determination. The arena fell into a hushed silence as he prepared to deliver his message. With a steady voice that resonated throughout the entire arena, Jimmy said, "The bloodline is broken, I broke free." 7 words, each one a hammer blow to the tribal chief's authority, a declaration of independence and rebellion. He dropped the mic, the echo of his words hanging in the air like the toll of a bell. As Jimmy exited the ring, Roman's expression shifted from anger to something colder, a realization that this wasn't just an act of defiance, it was a declaration of war. The bloodline, once united, was now fractured, and Jimmy's words had made it clear that he was ready to bring the whole structure crashing down if that's what it took. In the backstage area, Jimmy was met with a mix of reactions from WWE superstars. Some looked on with admiration, while others wore expressions of disbelief. But Jimmy remained unfazed, his focus unwavering as he made his way through the corridors. He knew what he had done, and he knew what it would mean for his future. As he reached his locker room, he was stopped by Jey Uso, his twin, his brother, the one person who had been by his side through everything. Jey's face was a mixture of concern and pride, a silent acknowledgement of the choice Jimmy had made. Without a word, Jey extended his hand, and Jimmy took it, the bond between them stronger than ever despite the turmoil around them. "You sure about this, Us?" Jey finally asked, his voice filled with both caution and hope. Jimmy looked at his brother, his determination unwavering. "It's time we stop being controlled, Jey. We're stronger together, but we don't need Roman telling us who we are." Jey nodded slowly, a fire igniting in his eyes that matched Jimmy's own. They had always been the Usos, a tag team, brothers, family. But now, they were something more. They were free. As the night wore on, social media buzzed with reactions to Jimmy's declaration. Fans speculated on what it meant for the bloodline's future, debating whether Jey would join his brother or remain loyal to Roman. Meanwhile, the WWE Universe was left on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting the fallout from Jimmy's bold move. Back in the ring, Roman and Paul Heyman were already planning their next move, their faces grim as they realized that Jimmy's rebellion could inspire others. For the first time, the tribal chief's rule felt uncertain, his dominance threatened by the very family he had tried to control. But Jimmy didn't care about the consequences. He had made his choice, and he would stand by it no matter what. As he looked at his reflection in the locker room mirror, he repeated his words to himself, a reminder of his newfound freedom. "The bloodline is broken, I broke free." Watch Roman Reigns and the Usos backstage after the OG Bloodline reunion on SmackDown. WWE sends one-word message. WWE recently shared footage of the OG Bloodline members Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso backstage after SmackDown. The trio officially reunited on last night's episode of The Blue Brand. This week's Friday night show featured Reigns agreeing to the YEET Masters conditions, which stipulate that the latter and his twin must be treated as equals. Finally, Big Jim, Main Event Jey, and the OTC assembled as a unit. The Crown Jewel Premium Live event will be an emotional reunion for the Usos and Roman Reigns, who will share the ring together for the first time in over a year. The OG Bloodline will face off against the new Bloodline, consisting of Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga. Following SmackDown, the former undisputed WWE Universal Champion shared a video on his TikTok featuring Jimmy and Jey Uso. In the video, the former Intercontinental Champion performed his fan-favorite YEET chant, followed by the OG Bloodline members raising their iconic one-finger point gesture. Taking to X/Twitter, WWE reshared the backstage footage of Roman Reigns and the Usos ahead of Crown Jewel with a one-word message. Real-life Bloodline member chooses his tribal chief between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa ahead of WWE Crown Jewel. Zilla Fatu recently revealed who he acknowledges as his tribal chief in the Bloodline saga. The main one shared his opinion ahead of Crown Jewel. Speaking on the Wrestling Era podcast, Zilla Fatu declared his allegiance to Roman Reigns as his tribal chief, while stating he has nothing against Solo Sikoa. Nothing towards Solo Sikoa, I love him, everything. But if you ask me, my tribal chief, it's Roman Reigns, he said. As announced by Michael Cole on SmackDown, Tonga Loa has been ruled out of the massive Bloodline match at the PLE in Saudi Arabia. It remains to be seen whether Roman Reigns and the Usos can defeat the new Bloodline members, especially after the Street Champion vowed to be acknowledged by the babyfaces post-Crown Jewel. It was a night that fans had long anticipated but doubted would ever happen. The backstage area was electric following the conclusion of SmackDown. Roman Reigns and the Usos, Jimmy and Jey, had just orchestrated a moment that left the WWE Universe breathless, the OG Bloodline reunion. Although it was shrouded in uncertainty and tension, their alliance for one night had shifted the entire landscape of the WWE. As Roman walked down the corridor toward the locker room, his expression was a mixture of triumph and cautious resolve. Jimmy and Jey followed behind him, wearing identical smirks, clearly feeling the high from their thunderous ovation. The camera crew, scattered WWE personnel, and even some fellow superstars watched with bated breath, aware that they had witnessed something iconic, yet fragile. Inside the locker room, a tense silence fell over the reunited trio. Roman leaned against a bench, crossing his arms and assessing his cousins with his usual quiet intensity. Jimmy and Jey avoided his gaze at first, seeming almost hesitant now that the adrenaline was beginning to wear off. It was clear that their reunion had been more about the moment than a long-term reconciliation. After a long, lingering silence, Roman finally spoke, his voice low but dripping with authority. "So, is this what we're doing now?" Jey raised his chin, his eyes locking with Roman's. There was no defiance, but there wasn't surrender either. "You asked us to step up tonight. And we did. Bloodline came through. Isn't that what it's all about, Us?" Roman's lips curled into a faint smile, though his eyes held the calculated glint of someone who knew exactly what was at stake. "Tonight, yeah. But let's not pretend everything's good just 'cause we stood in that ring together." His gaze drifted between the twins, each of whom had once rebelled against him. Jimmy snorted, rubbing his knuckles as though trying to release the tension. "You saying we got problems, Tribal Chief? 'Cause it looked to me like the crowd was ready for the Bloodline, just like they were a year ago." Roman's face darkened, but he held back any immediate response. Instead, he looked toward the door as if waiting for someone. Within seconds, Paul Heyman slipped into the room, his eyes darting nervously between Roman and the Usos. He had the look of a man who had managed to steady the ship but wasn't sure how long it would hold. "Gentlemen," Paul began, clearing his throat, that was a monumental statement out there. "The WWE Universe will remember tonight as the rebirth of something legendary." Jey's jaw tightened as he looked at Heyman. "Yeah? Feels more like a one-night-only kind of thing, don't it?" Roman glared at him, his tone razor-sharp. "Watch yourself, Us. Tonight wasn't just about nostalgia. We're here because I needed to remind everyone what the Bloodline stands for." Jimmy shot back, his own frustration finally surfacing. "Maybe you needed the reminder too. Ever think of that?" A tense silence settled in the room as Roman's gaze burned into Jimmy. He took a step closer to him, lowering his voice. You really want to test me, Jimmy? After everything I did for this family? Before Jimmy could respond, Heyman intervened, his hands raised in a calming gesture. Gentlemen, gentlemen. This is precisely why tonight was a victory, but also a test. The WWE Universe saw the bloodline, the original bloodline. They don't want to see us fall apart again. That message was clear. Roman's expression softened slightly, but the edge remained. And who's to say tonight wasn't a one-off? He glanced from Jimmy to Jey, his gaze piercing. You two walked away once. Why should I think it'll be any different this time? Jey stepped forward, surprising Roman. We walked away 'cause we had to, Roman. But tonight, we felt what we had. We know what we had. Don't act like you didn't feel it too. Roman's silence was telling, and a flicker of vulnerability crossed his face, quickly replaced by his typical steely resolve. Yeah, I felt it. But feeling it doesn't mean we're all good. The bloodline isn't about feelings. It's about loyalty. You two need to prove that if you're thinking of sticking around. Jimmy and Jey exchanged glances, both wrestling with the unspoken implications. Finally, Jimmy nodded. Then give us a chance to prove it. The WWE Universe wants this. They want the real bloodline. Not some broken family beefing week after week. Heyman, sensing an opportunity, jumped in. This could be a turning point, gentlemen. We could let this be the moment the bloodline rises again, together. Roman gave a slight nod, then looked back at Jimmy and Jey with a trace of emotion. All right. We'll see if you're ready to stand by me, for real this time. He paused, then added, but don't mistake tonight for forgiveness. You're gonna have to earn that. The Usos nodded in understanding, their faces set with a renewed determination. They knew what lay ahead, and this time, they were ready to face it together. As the three of them stood in a rare moment of unity, a WWE staff member knocked and poked his head into the room, his face flushed with excitement. He held up his phone, showing a WWE social media post that had just gone live. The screen displayed a single word, Bloodline. The message was simple, yet powerful. It said everything the WWE Universe needed to know. This was a declaration, a statement that the bloodline was back, at least for now. The fans had seen the old fire return, even if the coals were still smoldering beneath the surface. Roman gave a slight smirk. One word. That's all it takes. Heyman nodded, his expression a mix of pride and anticipation. Indeed, my tribal chief. One word to signal an entire legacy. This is just the beginning. Jey, ever the instigator, threw an arm around his brother and cocked an eyebrow at Roman. So, what's next, tribal chief? You leading this family, or just yourself? Roman's smirk faded as he locked eyes with Jey. Remember, Use. I'm always leading. And this time, you're gonna follow, or get left behind. Jimmy and Jey both met his gaze with newfound respect. They had come to realize that their issues with Roman couldn't erase the undeniable bond they shared. They were family, sometimes fractured, but family nonetheless. And for now, that was enough. They didn't need to resolve everything tonight. But tonight, they had reminded themselves and the world of what they were capable of as a united front. With a final nod of mutual understanding, Roman left the locker room, leaving the Usos and Heyman to absorb the gravity of the moment. As he disappeared down the corridor, a WWE crew member called out, "One word? More like 1,000. In that moment, everyone knew that the Bloodline saga was far from over. The possibilities were limitless, and the WWE Universe was on the edge of its seat, waiting to see what would unfold next. Roman Reigns could face Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania 41, predicts WWE analyst, for a major reason. Roman Reigns' entrance at WrestleMania will feel different without the undisputed WWE Universal Championship around his waist. Meanwhile, WWE analyst Sam Roberts recently predicted a match between the original Tribal Chief and Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, Nevada. Earlier this year, Roman Reigns went on a hiatus, and a new monster appeared on SmackDown. The Bloodline Solo Sikoa introduced the WWE Universe to Jacob Fatu as he wreaked havoc on Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. In an appearance on the Busted Open radio podcast, Sam Roberts predicted a match between Reigns and Fatu at WrestleMania 41. However, the match could only happen if The Rock is not available for the event in 2025, as the Samoan Werewolf will be a formidable opponent for the original Tribal Chief. It's interesting that you could easily put together an amazing WrestleMania without The Rock, which is incredible. The idea of building Jacob Fatu over the next 5 months. And your Roman Reigns match is Roman versus Jacob at WrestleMania 41. It's incredibly realistic, Sam Roberts said. 1959 to 2022, Roman Reigns has crossed paths with Jacob Fatu after returning to WWE earlier this year. Roman Reigns' undisputed WWE Universal Championship reign ended at WrestleMania XL, and the original Tribal Chief decided to rest for a while as he went on a much-needed break from the Stamford-based promotion. In his absence, Solo Sikoa took charge of the Bloodline and made some additions to the faction. However, it was Jacob Fatu who made the biggest difference in the group as its enforcer. A few months ago, the Samoan Werewolf attacked the original Tribal Chief when he tried to reclaim the Ula Fala from Solo. Later, Roman teamed up with Cody Rhodes to take on Sikoa and Jacob in a tag team match at the Bad Blood 2024 Premium Live event. Regardless of their past interaction, the two are yet to have a one-on-one bout in the Stamford-based promotion. For those unaware, Roman, Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso are set to take on Solo's Bloodline in a 6-man tag team match at WWE Crown Jewel 2024. The WWE Universe is abuzz with rumors and speculation that WrestleMania 41 could feature an electrifying showdown, Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu. This potential face-off would be more than a mere bout between two Samoan powerhouses. It's seen as a battle for supremacy, respect, and legacy within the family-dominated wrestling world. WWE analysts and insiders are already predicting that if this match becomes a reality, it could be one of the most significant matchups in recent WrestleMania history, and for good reason. The Bloodline Saga, a narrative of loyalty, betrayal, and the quest for power, has captivated WWE fans for years. Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief, has reigned supreme over WWE with his Bloodline faction, comprising Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa, but cracks within the group have led to shifting alliances and intense rivalries. As Roman's reign continued, family members like Jey and Jimmy have come and gone from his side, with Solo remaining his steadfast enforcer. However, rumors suggest that Reigns' power over the Bloodline might soon be tested by an outsider, his own cousin, Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu, a member of the legendary Anoa'i wrestling dynasty, is well known in wrestling circles, particularly in Major League Wrestling, MLW, where he has carved out a fearsome reputation as the Samoan Werewolf. With a brutal in-ring style and an intimidating presence, Fatu's wrestling prowess makes him a serious threat to Roman Reigns' position as head of the family. WWE analyst Jonathan Brooks believes Jacob Fatu represents something Roman Reigns hasn't faced before: a powerful family figure who operates independently and doesn't conform to the Bloodline's established order. In Brooks' words, Fatu embodies the raw, untamed spirit of the Anoa'i legacy, something even Roman has become slightly detached from in his pursuit of dominance and control within WWE. While Roman has held tight control over his family's legacy within the WWE, Fatu's persona harkens back to the fierce, unyielding attitude of their legendary relatives like the Wild Samoans and Yokozuna. His resistance to joining WWE for so long has made him a symbol of rebellion, and fans are now clamoring to see what would happen if he finally crossed into Roman's territory. A clash between these two could symbolize not only a physical battle but also a clash of philosophies within the family legacy. The road to WrestleMania 41 could be the perfect stage to bring Fatu into the WWE fold. According to sources within WWE, executives see a lot of potential in Fatu's crossover appeal. His unique persona, combined with his family ties, would add significant weight to any storyline involving Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Analyst Brooks notes, WrestleMania has always been where the biggest rivalries come to a head, and what's bigger than a showdown between two heirs of the Anoa'i dynasty? With WrestleMania being WWE's most prestigious event, the stakes couldn't be higher. Reigns has been the face of WrestleMania for several years, with iconic matches against Brock Lesnar, Edge, and Cody Rhodes. However, facing a family member like Fatu, who's widely respected outside WWE, would be an entirely different challenge, one that could redefine both men's legacies. If WWE decides to bring Jacob Fatu into the fold, analysts predict a storyline centered around pride, power, and the question of who truly deserves to lead the family. Roman's character as the tribal chief has been defined by his belief that he alone can lead the family to greatness. However, Fatu's potential entry into WWE would challenge that belief, especially given his credentials as a feared champion outside of WWE. In a storyline leading to WrestleMania, WWE could position Fatu as someone who isn't there to steal Roman's spotlight but to remind him of the true meaning of their family's legacy. Brooks speculates, imagine if Jacob Fatu were to confront Roman, telling him he's forgotten their family's roots and accusing him of turning his back on the warrior spirit that once defined them. This approach would tap into the intense family pride both men share and create a deeply personal storyline that fans could get invested in. Leading up to WrestleMania 41, WWE could explore a dramatic shakeup within the Bloodline. Perhaps Solo Sikoa, who has always been loyal to Roman, starts to question Roman's leadership after Fatu's arrival. Fatu could leverage his family connections to show Solo a different path, igniting tension within the Bloodline. This could lead to a storyline where Solo and Fatu form a temporary alliance, challenging Roman's control. A scenario like this would add a fresh layer to the Bloodline saga, creating an intense storyline that reflects the shifting loyalties and inner conflicts that have been present throughout WWE history. Fans would be captivated as Roman tries to hold his family together, only to find that Fatu's influence might be too powerful to ignore. When it comes to physicality, a match between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu promises to be brutal. Fatu's in-ring style is aggressive and unpredictable, combining his Samoan heritage with a high-flying approach rarely seen in men of his size. On the other hand, Roman's powerhouse style, enhanced by his intelligence and experience in high-stakes matches, would make for a thrilling contrast. This match would likely feature an intense back-and-forth, with both men testing each other's limits. Roman, used to asserting dominance, could find himself on the defensive as Fatu's relentless offense overwhelms him. In Brooks' view, Fatu's style might catch Roman off guard, forcing him to adapt in ways he hasn't had to in his title defenses against traditional WWE superstars. The outcome: what's at stake? The potential implications of this match extend beyond WrestleMania itself. If Fatu were to defeat Roman Reigns, it would send shockwaves throughout WWE, signaling that there is a new heir to the family throne. A victory for Fatu could also set up a storyline where he slowly takes over the Bloodline, or perhaps even inspires the family to embrace a more pure version of their Samoan legacy. On the other hand, if Roman defeats Fatu, it would solidify his status as the undisputed tribal chief, giving him even more control over the Bloodline and potentially even gaining Fatu's respect. The outcome of this match could shape the future of WWE's family-centric storylines for years to come. The analysts' verdict: as WWE prepares for WrestleMania 41, analysts like Brooks are convinced that a Roman Reigns vs. Jacob Fatu matchup would be a game-changer. This could be the family feud to end all family feuds, Brooks states. Fans are ready for a fresh challenger to Roman's throne, and Fatu brings the intensity, credibility, and family ties that make him the perfect contender. WWE has a golden opportunity to bring the Anoa'i family's legacy full circle. Whether they choose to go in this direction remains to be seen, but the wrestling world will be watching closely. WrestleMania 41 could indeed be the stage where Roman Reigns meets his match, not just in skill but in family honor. And if Jacob Fatu steps up to the plate, fans can expect a rivalry that will be remembered as one of the most epic battles in WWE history.